Hello, the title of today's demonstration is a predetermined composition with transparent and opaque paint. So we've been doing transparent and opaque layers, but in a more spontaneous fashion to understand the materials. What if you wanted a specific composition to build off of? Because that's another way, and sometimes we need to or want to do that. So here is a design I got out of the book I showed, How to Wrap 5 Eggs, all Japanese design. This is a basket of persimmons, I believe dried in a basket, and I just think the composition is is lovely. And so I selected this one to transfer, and I did my first transfer. I thought my thinking was first, I'm going to go on a square canvas, okay? And then I thought, I didn't want it dead center, so I pulled it off to the side. It felt a little cramped. Then I looked across the room and I saw, here's this Dutch tile that I have where you've got the circle, it's symmetrical within the square, which makes more sense for a tile because it's decorative and there would be a series of these. What's in the circle is not symmetrical. So when doing a predetermined composition, there's planning involved. So I could have gone completely symmetrical with the circle and the square. I felt like I wanted it more to the edge. Then this felt too small. So then I went to, here's my square. And then I transferred my image here. So I want all this breathing room around here. And I wanted a little bit of a border. And what I did was I just rubbed graphite pencil on the back. I made my own, basically carbon paper. You can use carbon paper, you can use graphite paper. I didn't have any, and I think the carbon comes up really dark. I wanted this lighter should I choose to erase it. So you would figure out where you want your image on your page, transfer. You could also freehand if you want. And then I'm going to get into painting, and you can go canvas or Bristol paper. I just happen to have all this watercolor paper. Okay, sorry, moving that over so you can see it. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is put a, hang on, I'm going to move this over. I'm going to go wet on wet. So I'm going to, my transparent layer will be first. Okay, so that's a little bit of planning I'm doing. Transparent layer will be first. I think I'm going to go blue over here, some magenta here, and some sap green here. So I have my paints ready to go. I have a little test sheet of paper, and going to wet my paper with this Japanese brush. And I want to go light at first because I can always make things darker. So sometimes when working with a predetermined composition, it's a little intimidating to start. So I'm going to start lighter, and then I have my test piece of paper. I'm using indigo color. Maybe I want to go a little lighter than that. Add some more water. Okay, in addition to the design, I'm seeing that, to me, there's a feeling of movement or wind coming through here. So I'm going to go with that movement. And if there's areas that I feel are too dark, I can blot them with a rag. Okay. Can bring that back. And I admit I'm being bad. I'm using a Japanese brush with acrylic paint because I want, it just has that fluidity. So I have to be really good and really rinse these brushes out. Okay, now I'm going to go with that magenta. Okay, I want to wet that again. I'm just trying to get some base color down, and then I'm going to build on top of that. Just wetting this again so that paint will bleed, and then I'm going to follow these lines with my sap green paint. Okay, so ideally I would let that dry outside. It shouldn't take that long. And then I would go on to opaque. So I've got another one underneath ready to go. To move this over. I had it all set up and now wasn't where I wanted it to be. Okay, so this one's dry. I did this ahead of time. So I did my planning. Now I'm going to come in opaque. I can also do more transparent if I want. This is where it gets tricky. So there's only so much planning you can do, and then you just got to get into the flow of the thing and see where it wants to go. So I like the movement. I've got movement this way, and then I've got the curvature of this green going this way in my original. I like all this patterning. It's kind of like a snake, really. I like all this patterning of the basket. I think I want to put some of those in, but not all of them. That just seems too persnickety. And I may end up using my feather to put in some of these marks. Now, if you're working with the feather, so this curvature goes with this curve here, but sometimes I have to adjust my feather depending on which way I want the curve to go. Okay, maybe I'll do some bigger marks out here. So I'm kind of, what I'm doing is kind of invisible drawing on there, sort of tuning in to what I might want to do. I want some finer lines. This is probably going to end up being more opaque down here. Okay, here goes. All right. And I meant to bring my palette paper, and of course I focused on these little tins. I want to drag this feather. Yeah, let me see. Can't find a piece of palette paper. Okay, I'm going to just pour it on here. Drag my feather through. And I can do some practice marks over here. Now it's turning kind of green, which I like. Oh, you can't see that. Kind of accidental. Okay. All right. I'm just going to go for it. Okay, so I like this sweep. I'm probably going to end up putting a bigger brush stroke there because I can't quite get it with the feather. I'm going to come in and do some smaller marks. Oh, it's not dark enough. Okay, over there. Again, with these feathers, it's good to practice off to the side. I do a little practice test, see if that's the mark that I want. Okay. So I'm still using transparent. I haven't gotten to the opaque yet, but I'm bringing it up slowly. This feels like grass to me. Okay. Let's see. I want to go back with a bigger mark down here. And on the watercolor paper, what's great about this graffito is I'm making a mark, an actual indentation in the paper, and then it gets dyed with the paint color. It'll be different on canvas. Okay. Okay, now let's see if I can put some more density paint in here. I'm feeling like I want some splatters first though. So I'm going to use my toothbrush and I'm going to get some splatters up here at the top, which gives a nice sense of movement. Okay. Alrighty. Okay, so this is where intuition comes in. Something told me use charcoal pencil. So I'm going to go with that. Give a slightly sharper outline to these, whatever these are. They could be suns, they could be fruits. I had many different ideas. I kept seeing a branch and cherry blossom with a breeze blowing through, but direction changes when you start painting. Okay, now I'm going to wet this a little bit. Soften that charcoal. Okay. Coming in with more intense paint. I'm going to bring in some orange. And oftentimes I end up loving this little paper off to the side. That becomes a little art piece. Okay, so now I'm going thicker, opaque paint. Maybe some red. We'll see. Scrape that off because I don't like that over there. Okay, I feel like I need one more thing, maybe up here, smaller. I think it's going to be this pink. So something more delicate in contrast to this. Okay, I'm going to come in with my angled brush that I like because I want maybe some crisp marks in there. And something tells me Van Dyke Brown. Actually, I like it with the green. I'm going to mix it with the green, which just happened accidentally over there, and I liked it. Van Dyke Brown with sap green. Okay, pulling off some of the paint on my brush. Now I'm going to, I think, I'm looking back at my original design, and I'm going to mimic some of those marks. So this is where I love this angled brush, because then it becomes a stamping tool. I get these really crisp, fine lines. These almost look like little tree branches, breaking out of that curve a little bit there. I want crisper edge down here. I'm going to outline some of those forms. I have to know when to stop myself. I get addicted to this particular thing, stamping technique. Okay, so I feel like there's probably more that I could do. For some reason, I'm sensing there might be some yellow, but this feels like a really good stopping point for me to back out, get some distance on it, maybe even take some photographs, and then determine, am I done? See, I can't help myself. Gotta stop. Am I done, or is there more? And when working with a predetermined composition, it's easy to get really tight. And I think you just, at a certain point, have to follow your intuition, let yourself play. And then you may not like everything, you might like aspects. You can always do another one. I've been known on certain art pieces to do it like 3-4 times before I get the one that I want. So either way you cut it, you're learning stuff along the way. So transparent and opaque layers, not a lot of opaque, not super thick. You can go thicker if you want, with a predetermined composition. All right, move this up a little bit so you can see the whole thing. There we go.